Good morning, family. Good morning. Welcome to the Afro Latina Show. I am your host, Alicia Anabel-santos, la diosa dominicana, la santera. Welcome to episode 203, titled The Ugly Truth. And I have been waiting to talk about a couple of things. The Junot Diaz essay that came out 2 weeks ago in The New Yorker, where he writes about his child abuse as a child, his sexual assault as a child, being a victim of sexual abuse, and then the aftermath of his essay being the women who have came forward accusing Junot of his misconduct and mistreatment of them. I want to first say that as a victim of violence, as a survivor of violence, sexual assault, physical assault, I stand in solidarity with all victims, and so the women who have came forward, I am in solidarity with them as women. And at the same time, when I read Junot's essay, I stand with him too, as a man who was a victim of assault as a child. Not excusing his behavior as a man, though. See, that's the thing, right? We can understand some things, but it doesn't excuse all the things. And so today I titled my diary The Ugly Truth, because there are some ugly truths. And I have an essay that I'm writing, so I'm not going to express all of my feelings about Junot in this particular diary, because it's not what I do in the morning. What I do want to meditate on is the fact that we all walk with some ugly truths. And I don't believe that Junot is the exception, even though he is an exceptional writer, right? He's not the exception, and he does not get a pass. And for as much as we want to protect our own, and by our own, I'm standing here saying, I've always considered Junot a compatriot, right? We're Dominican. And so he has been seen as the pride of those of us who are Dominican American, and writers, especially if we're aspiring writers. There's something that Junot possesses that, speaking for myself, I always admired. Saying that, I also need to say that I have always had my problems with Junot, and have voiced it publicly, have written about it, and I've always wanted to have a conversation one-on-one with Junot about his female characters, and the reason why I never even finished Oscar Wilde, but that's neither here nor there. Today, this meditation is about the ugly truth, and the truth is that we all have ugliness. We all have ugliness. We've all made mistakes, and I believe that as artists, as writers, we have the responsibility to tell the truth, and so I also question the fact that Junot, published this essay in light of all of the Me Too movement and all of the people who were coming forward. I absolutely knew as soon as I read it, they were going to come for him, because it isn't a secret that he's a misogynist. It isn't. I know that it's in our DNA, as Dominicans, and I'm speaking for Dominicans, right? Like, we come from a culture where we come from a very patriarchal society, and a society that hates women. That's how I feel, right? I'm speaking for me and my view and my position. I have always felt this thing um, that Dominican men possess, when it comes to women and how they view us, how Dominican men view us as some sort of property. And so in the writing, those undertones, they're there because you can't escape. You can't write that. You can't write that truth out of your history, out of your DNA. And so, but Juno isn't the only one, is the point for me. The truth is that we all have ugly truth. I have ugly truths. We are all guilty of being ugly and doing ugly things. And it's, as artists, it's what we do with that art that matters. Like, I do believe that the fact that Juno has come out and he has shared his trauma, he didn't have to do that. And yes, we could have just waited for all of the women to come out, because inevitably they would, to hold him accountable for the shady shit that he's done to them. But he didn't have to share his assault, right? Because that's very personal, and that's not easy. I think he was incredibly courageous to share trauma, but I think he would have done better in that essay had he really addressed the power dynamic, had he really called to task the Dominican men, who abused him sexually. I think had he talked about that violence, that toxic masculinity in a way that is crucial for this conversation, people might have found the intention more, they would have believed him more, you know? And so I don't know. I am absolutely going to reach out to Juno because I want to interview him. I want to have a conversation with him. I I've always had my love hate with Juno, and listen, all this to say is that we are all in pain right now, man. We're all dealing with some fucked up shit, and finally people are speaking up, and I'm thrilled about that, because I know that that's how healing happens, yo. And as artists and writers and performers and visionaries and dreamers, we're the ones who have always called people out on the shit that's happening in the world. And so Juno is gonna be called out on his shit. And so I hope he's ready. I hope he's ready to address it and have this conversation over and over again, because it's not enough to just say I'm sorry in an essay. It's how we move in the world. It's how we move forward. How we treat people, how we treat women, how we view women. And I'm sorry, Juno is not the one who is should be blamed for all of the existence of misogyny. I'm not going to put all that shit on him, because we know that that comes from somewhere, right? And we carry it too as women. We are misogynists too. There are women who fucking hate women too. And so there is healing that has to happen. And so today, my meditation is on compassion. And so my compassion goes out to the women, first and foremost, the women who are the victims of misogyny and violence and hate and abuse and assault. And also to the men who are victims of violence and abuse and assault. And so let's breathe. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Breathe comfortably. I know so many of us are angry right now, And we want to lash out, and we want to blame, and we want to point fingers, and we want to crucify. I was going to title this diary today, Crucifying Junot. But it's also language that I don't want to feed, right? I don't want to feed the fire in that way. I don't want to feed the anger in that way. While I do believe we reserve the right to be angry. I have worked for so many years to contain my anger. And containment, I don't mean that as a way of silencing myself or censoring myself from expressing what it is that needs to be expressed. What I'm saying is that I contain it because I know that if I unleash it, it'll be explosive, and I will take out everyone in my vicinity. And the end result of that, the aftermath of that, is always ugly and always lives inside of me. So containing it for me means that I'm holding on to peace, that I can turn my rage and anger into art, right? I can respond in writing. I can be angry on the page, but not in this space where I come to like meditate and begin my day. So how can we be more compassionate today, even though we might want to be angry and explode? How can we be more compassionate toward whoever we feel we want to be compassionate towards, right? How can we heal from the pain that we carry? What can we do? How can we take care of ourselves? Because right now, emotions are high. Self-care is needed desperately. You can pause this and just kind of write to yourself, journal. What can you do to take care of yourself, and how can you have compassion for others? How can we see people as flawed? How can we see the ugly truth in others and in ourselves and stand there and have compassion for them? Compassion does not mean that we say it's okay. Compassion doesn't mean that we give motherfuckers a pass. That's not what we're saying. Compassion is simply saying, yep, you messed up, and now you gotta pay the consequences, because that's how I feel about Junot right now. Junot has to pay. Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Am I burning his books? No. I have made choices around the books of his that he's published that I just haven't read and still sit on my bookshelf because, I was always supporting him as a writer. But that doesn't mean that I co-sign on the shit that he has done. I believe that there are consequences that he is going to have to make amends for. And that's his work. That's not up to me to decide how he does that and where he does that and whether or not that needs to be public also. Healing is very intimate, y'all, and personal. And so today I'm calling forth compassion for myself and for those who need it most today. The women who have come out against Junot and Junot himself. And when you're ready, please come out of meditation. And my loves, I'm wishing you the most magnificent day. I know that we are all going through some fucked up things, some ugly ass truths. But now more than ever, we need one another. Don't allow them to tear us apart and tear each other down. That's not what I'm trying to do. That's not what I want at all. I am not here for the tearing Junot down in all men. I'm here for the healing of toxic masculinity. And there are some Dominican men that I fucking adore, my dad and brother included, and they haven't always been the greatest of men. And so I'm here for the healing, right? So may you have compassion for all those that you deem worthy of it. And my intention for today is just to walk with compassion and also love, because we need more of that. And I'm wishing you all an amazing day. Peace.